unconstitutional by the Supreme Court has been overruled. So now I'm asking, are your bureaucrats still going to implement these rulemaking processes?
You do know Chevron is not just focused on EPA. So,
but you are. So I'm asking about the EPA, and I'm asking about your rogue bureaucrats that have enacted these unconstitutional regulations. Are you going to repeal them? Are you going to continue to implement them, or are you going to stop altogether, since it's been overturned?
do you understand the ruling?
Do you understand the ruling of the SupremeUrt?
I do, and so your question is ill-formed. No,
Will you
we're
be
not
repealing?
We're not going to stop.
So you're going to unconstitutionally continue with these
We're going to
rulemakings.
We're going to adhere to the
EPA.
Supreme Court and continue to
So
do
which rulemakings are you going to roll back?
We're going to adhere to the Supreme Court and continue to do our work in accordance to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court.
So which ones are you going to repeal?
The Supreme Court didn't tell us to repeal anything.
They have been deemed unconstitutional.
No.
Absolutely, they have. This was a huge victory. And
did Lauren Boebert really just lecture the EPA about unconstitutional regulations, while not understanding the very law she's screaming about? Because what we just watched wasn't an oversight hearing. It was a masterclass in how ignorance gets weaponized into policy. Welcome back to True Liberty, where we cut through the noise, slice through the propaganda, and call it exactly how we see it. Because what's at stake here isn't just one chaotic exchange. It's the future of environmental protections, democratic checks and balances, and whether facts still matter in a Congress increasingly run by people who don't read the damn rulings they're quoting. If you want to stay plugged into breakdowns like this, real talk, real analysis, stick around. I'd love to have you with us as we keep unpacking the political circuits together. Because trust me, what Boebert does in this clip isn't just embarrassing, it's dangerous. It's the kind of dangerous that rewrites public understanding of law, undermines the agencies that protect your water and air, and feeds a narrative designed to keep corporate polluters untouchable.
Boebert from Colorado for 5 minutes.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Administrator Regan, is it true that the EPA has never obtained formal authorization legislation from Congress?
I'm sorry?
Is it true that the EPA has never obtained formal legislation, authorization legislation from Congress? It's never been authorized by Congress.
EPA is not authorized by Congress?
I'm asking you.
I thought EPA was authorized by Congress.
Well, the EPA is not. The EPA has never been formally authorized by Congress. However, this agency has imposed over $1.3 trillion in regulatory costs since the Biden regime took office. We authorize committees here in Congress to ensure that we have proper oversight and accountability in the functioning of the executive branch. And this process is extremely vital because often we see agencies abuse the separation of powers, creating rules and laws, regulations without consent of Congress. And we appropriate funds to agencies like the EPA and expect these tax dollars and this tax dollar funding to be used in accordance with the legislative priorities and comply with the oversight requirements. So, Mr. Regan, last month, the Supreme Court rightly overturned the Chevron Doctrine, which the EPA relied on to support its very controversial and costly rulemakings. Since your agency has never been authorized by Congress and has since lost most legal standing, does your agency still plan to enable rogue bureaucrats to enact unconstitutional regulations?
I'm not quite sure I follow you. You're saying that...
I'm saying the Chevron Doctrine was overturned by the Supreme Court.
We have no
statutory
authority?
I'm saying you've never been authorized. Wait, hold on.
Congress doesn't delegate authority for us to do the regulations and the business and the policy. So since 1970...
So the Chevron Doctrine, where you have created all of these rules under that have been proven to be unconstitutional by the Supreme Court has been overruled. So now I'm asking, are your bureaucrats still going to implement these rulemaking processes?
You do know Chevron is not just focused on EPA. So,
but you are. So I'm asking about the EPA, and I'm asking about your rogue bureaucrats that have enacted these unconstitutional regulations. Are you going to repeal them? Are you going to continue to implement them, or are you going to stop altogether, since it's been over?
Boebert starts with a claim so bizarre it almost feels performance art. The idea that the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, has never been authorized by Congress. Except, it was literally created by an act of Congress in 1970. This is 5th grade level civics. When Regan tries to correct her, she bulldozes right over him because the goal here isn't truth. It's sound bites engineered for rage clicks. This isn't about authorization. It's about dismantling environmental regulation, so fossil fuel donors can run wild without accountability. When conservatives say unconstitutional, what they usually mean is, this agency is preventing billionaires from polluting for free. Then she pivots to the Supreme Court's overturning of the Chevron Doctrine. And this is where the manipulation kicks into high gear. Boebert claims the ruling proves past EPA rules were unconstitutional. That's just false.
Since it's been overturned.
Do you understand the ruling?
Do you understand the
I
ruling
do.
of the Supreme Court?
I do, and so your question is ill-formed. No,
Will you
we're
be
not
repealing?
We're not going to stop.
So you're going to unconstitutionally continue with these
We're going to
rulemakings.
We're going to adhere to the
EPA.
Supreme Court and continue to
So
do
which
continue to do
rulemakings
our,
are you going to roll back?
We're going to adhere to the Supreme Court and continue to do our work in accordance to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court.
So which
made a
ones are
ruling.
you going to repeal?
The Supreme Court didn't tell us to repeal anything.
They have been deemed unconstitutional.
No.
Absolutely, they have. This was a huge victory. And, even in our appropriations bill in the House this year, the funding has been reduced by 20%. I would argue that it needs to be reduced by 100%. But in this, it's because of these radical Green New Deal policies that jeopardize domestic energy development and overload America's power grid and raise costs on American consumers and businesses. So with the EPA and these overreaching regulations, do you have any intent on working with the House majority to lower energy costs and produce more reliable and affordable energy?
If you look at our rule, we are producing reliable, affordable, diverse.
I think
energy solutions.
Americans' wallets would disagree with that. I mean, the Biden administration, if they continue under Obama's administrative policies, this regulatory pace for a full 8 years, the cumulative cost of this administration's rulemakings would exceed $60,000 per household. And as you know, the Biden administration reversed President Trump's successful deregulation by executive order. So the Biden regime is on pace of increasing regulatory costs at a rate of $617 billion per year in just rulemaking. Rulemaking that we are seeing is unconstitutional.
It's just shocking. You spend so much time with our regional staff and regional administration in Region 8 and have such productive conversations about how we're doing things for your district and your state, and then you take this microphone and you
I've also seen the coal plants that have been decommissioned in my state.
But 100%, we should not
I've seen the energy regulations that have regulated my district into poverty.
You're spending time with my
So
staff
sure,
in your
of
district.
course I am. I have oversight over your staff, and I want them to answer. And I want them to provide a service for the American people.
Complimenting them
but there
about
are
the
so much.
partnerships.
Yes, there are some things that have been done well, but
we
not
should be
everything.
100%
When we
removed?
have $617 billion per year in rulemaking, that is absolutely absurd. When you are taking our affordable clean energy and regulating it out of existence and killing these good-paying jobs in my district, yes, I have a problem with that.
Sure, yeah.
My time has expired, and I yield.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I think that was 46 seconds over.
The Supreme Court didn't invalidate every rule. It changed the future standard for interpreting ambiguous statutes. Reagan explains this repeatedly. She doesn't care, because the point isn't law, it's chaos. The right relies on chaos. Confusion creates power. Let's be crystal clear. Rolling back environmental protections isn't pro-freedom. It's not pro-jobs. It's not pro-America. It's pro-corporate extraction. It's pro-pollution. It's pro-sacrifice the working class for profit. Communities, especially rural, low-income, indigenous, and Black communities, pay the price in poisoned water, asthma rates, contaminated land, and collapsing local economies. Meanwhile, the corporations responsible get tax breaks. That is the small government conservative model. Privatize the profit, socialize the harm. We've seen this for decades. In the 80s under Reagan deregulation, in the 2000s under Bush gutting clean air rules, under Trump's EPA run by former industry lobbyists. Every time, the pattern is the same. Polluters win, workers lose, communities get hollowed out. And now the far right wants to finish the job by kneecapping the EPA entirely and turning regulation into a dirty word. But regulation is just democracy enforcing boundaries on greed. Labor rights? Regulation. Child labor bans? Regulation. Clean drinking water? Regulation. Civil rights enforcement? Regulation. This is about whether government protects people or protects profit. Boebert relies on fear framing. EPA is unaccountable. Scapegoating. They're destroying jobs. Ahistorical claims, ignoring decades of evidence that deregulation hurts workers. Oversimplification. If we just cut rules, everything gets cheaper. Emotional bait disguised as oversight. It's political theater designed to distract from the truth. Corporate greed, not environmental standards, drives up energy costs. Regan, to his credit, stays calm and keeps repeating reality. The EPA follows Supreme Court rulings. The EPA follows Congress. The EPA doesn't make laws, Congress does. But you can't reason with a narrative built on ignoring the actual structure of government. And that's the terrifying part. If lawmakers don't even understand, or refuse to understand, the systems they're supposedly overseeing, democracy becomes a stage show instead of a safeguard. And look, I get why this hits a nerve. People in districts like Boebert's are suffering, economically, socially, generationally. But the solution to that suffering is investment, jobs, infrastructure, clean energy transitions, and economic diversification. It's not burning down the EPA. It's not deregulating corporations until the air is unbreathable. It's not pretending climate change is a hoax while towns collapse. Boebert is selling a fantasy of the past because she has no policy vision for the future. At the end of the day, this hearing wasn't about facts. It was about power, and whether we let misinformation guide national policy. So if you're with me, if you want more breakdowns that bring logic, history, receipts, and some fire, stick around. Let's keep doing this together, because truth shouldn't have to fight this hard. But together, it doesn't have to fight alone.